What if I told you that during the Chernobyl disaster, a secret convoy carrying 3 nuclear warheads drove straight through the sleeping streets of Kyiv? Most people know about the explosion. Almost no one knows what happened next. As radioactive dust fell from the sky, 30 trucks, coated in contamination, rolled past 2 million unsuspecting civilians. Inside those trucks, missiles capable of leveling entire cities. And that's just one of Chernobyl's buried secrets. Firefighters who were never warned, liquidators used like disposable machines, and a mysterious blue flash that some scientists now believe wasn't steam, but the signature of a nuclear detonation. This is the part of Chernobyl history they tried to erase. Let's uncover it. It was deep into the night, and Kyiv lay silent beneath the darkness. Through its sleeping streets rolled a convoy of 30 trucks, each carrying a deadly secret. At the front, Lieutenant Colonel Viktor Shev gripped the wheel of his military vehicle, the Geiger counter beside him screaming its warning. But the danger wasn't only the fallout drifting from Chernobyl's ruined reactor. Hidden among the convoy's anti-aircraft missiles were 3 tactical nuclear warheads, payloads capable of erasing entire cities. 3 days after Reactor 4 tore itself apart, the Soviet military rushed to secure its most sensitive assets. Shev's orders were blunt and uncompromising. Evacuate all missiles, 27 fitted with standard warheads and 3 armed with nuclear ones, from the Chernobyl air defense site. These weapons belonged to the S-75 Dvina system, infamous in Cold War history. It was an S-75 that once brought down an American U-2 spy plane in 1960, triggering an international crisis. Now, as the convoy rolled through Kyiv's heart, another crisis loomed, this time born from radioactive darkness, not geopolitics. A spreading cloud of contamination was slowly closing in on their route. The men driving the convoy understood that everything around them, their trucks, their uniforms, even their skin, was coated in radioactive dust. They had spent hours inside the poisoned zone without proper protective gear, relying solely on the grim certainty that a direct order must be obeyed. Mile by mile, the convoy crept the 60-plus mile journey from Chernobyl to Kyiv. Under the cover of midnight, it crossed the Peyton Bridge, slipping past more than 2 million residents who slept unaware that nuclear-tipped missiles were passing beneath their windows. After 14 grinding hours, never exceeding 20 miles per hour, the convoy reached Borispil Air Base. There, a specialized team immediately began dismantling the S-75 missiles and their nuclear warheads. For Shev and his crew, there was no ceremony. Just 2 bottles of red wine handed to the officers. The drivers received nothing at all. Shev's men scrubbed their trucks obsessively, scraping until their fingers split open, desperate to wash away the radioactive dust. The Geiger counters kept shrieking. Their assignment wasn't over. They were ordered back to Chernobyl 3 more times to retrieve equipment from the contaminated military installation. Each trip carried the same silent dread. But the S-75 system, capable of wiping out entire formations of enemy aircraft, was considered far too valuable to abandon. Radiation be damned. The system was a crucial link in the Soviet Union's early warning network, tied to the Duga over-the-horizon radar, better known as the Russian woodpecker, which scanned the skies for Western missile launches. But now those defenses were collapsing, and the machinery was left to decay. The convoy's operation was never officially acknowledged. Shev later called it a pointless mission, one that sacrificed men to save equipment already contaminated beyond use. The true cost was paid by the soldiers themselves. Many fell ill in the years that followed. Shev's own driver, only 28 years old, died shortly after the operation. "No one knows what we went through," Shev said bitterly. "We didn't save anyone. We didn't fix anything." For 3 years, The irradiated trucks and gear sat at Borispil, quietly pulsing with radiation till they were finally dumped in a graveyard for contaminated vehicles. But the harm had already taken root. The nuclear warheads were secured, yet the men who carried them out of hell were left alone to face the consequences. Their exposure written off as a secret the world was never supposed to hear. In the first hours after the Chernobyl explosion, Igor Kostin became one of just 5 photographers granted entry to the site. That rare access let him document scenes that looked like a vision of radioactive hell. Among them, this haunting image of a first responder whose fate was already sealed. The firefighters who rushed in during those early moments had no idea what they were walking into. No one told them the reactor's containment structure had been blown open. The initial brigade from the Chernobyl power plant, led by Vladimir Pravik, arrived thinking they were battling a routine electrical fire. Only when they stumbled upon chunks of burning graphite, pieces torn directly from the exposed reactor core, did the truth begin to surface. Several of them later said the radiation left a metallic taste in their mouths and a sensation like needles pricking their faces. Fire engine driver Grigory Nelyubov remembered the moment with chilling clarity. "We got there around 10 or 15 minutes before 2 in the morning. There was graphite everywhere." Mishka looks at it and asks, "Is that graphite?" I nudged it aside with my boot, but one of the guys from the other truck picked it up. "It's hot," he said. None of us really knew anything about radiation. Not even the workers who lived on site understood what had happened. Our trucks were dry, no water left. Misha filled the cistern, and we aimed the stream toward the roof. Then those boys climbed the ladder, and I never saw them again. In this bleak, almost dystopian image captured by Kostin, human liquidators scrape radioactive debris from the roof of Chernobyl's Reactor 3. The job was originally assigned to robots, but the radiation levels were so extreme that the machines malfunctioned and failed within just 2 days. The liquidators, drawn from both the civilian population and the military, were the ones who had to take over. These were the people tasked with stabilizing the disaster site, preventing both immediate and long-term fallout from spiraling even further out of control. The most lethal materials were handled by military teams wearing what little protective gear was available. The authorities dubbed them Biorobots, a grim acknowledgement of how they were being used. Each worker was allowed no more than 40 to 90 seconds on the rooftops, where highly radioactive fragments of graphite and shattered reactor components lay scattered. In theory, each person was supposed to perform this terrifying sprint only once. In reality, some were ordered back onto the rooftop more than 5 times. Their effort cleared only about 10% of the debris. The remainder was removed later by liquidators who often had no protection at all. Many contaminated emergency vehicles were eventually buried in trenches, but others were simply left behind in the exclusion zone. Some later stripped for usable parts despite the severe radiation they carried. Conditions for the liquidators were brutal. Most worked with inadequate gear, and many absorbed radiation doses up to 100 times above safe limits. Their health deteriorated quickly. Those who survived were eventually granted veteran status, receiving medals, certificates, and public praise as national heroes. In total, more than 600,000 people were officially recognized for their role in the cleanup. Their exposure varied dramatically. Some managed to avoid lasting harm, while countless others paid a devastating price for their courage. When Reactor 4 tore itself apart, the blast ripped through the entire facility, sending shockwaves across the plant and hurling a plume of radioactive material high into the night sky. Yet witnesses reported something else, cutting through the darkness. Something still debated to this day. They described a brilliant blue flash, a sight that some believe hints at a far more unsettling explanation than the official narrative. According to the mainstream account, the disaster unfolded during a botched safety test. A sudden power surge triggered a massive steam explosion. The reactor core then began to melt, and a second blast, this time from hydrogen created as superheated fuel and graphite tore apart water molecules, flung radioactive debris into the air. But a growing collection of research challenges that timeline, suggesting the blue flash may not have been from steam at all. A fisherman just 1,600 feet from the plant recalled hearing two separate explosions with a vivid blue flash between them. Testimonies like his lead nuclear physicist Lars Erik de Geer to propose that the flash might have been the signature of a small nuclear explosion. De Geer's team supported this idea using radiation measurements taken in the Russian city of Chernobyl, some 230 miles north of Moscow. Oddly, the city was far outside the known fallout zone. And yet, 4 days after the disaster, scientists there detected Xenon-133 drifting overhead. That finding implied that radioactive material had been blasted roughly 2 miles into the upper atmosphere, where stronger winds could carry it far beyond expected boundaries. Physical evidence inside the reactor hints at the sheer violence of the initial blast. The explosion propelled a 2,000-ton reactor lid into the air and left it leaning upright on the edge of the reactor shaft. Seismic readings and the destruction inside Reactor 4, including a 6.5-ton core plate that had partially melted, appear to support the idea that something more powerful than steam ignited first. Blue glows around reactors are often attributed to Cherenkov radiation, light produced when charged particles outrun the speed of light in water or another medium. It's a familiar sight in reactor cooling pools. Alexander Yuvchenko, one of the plant workers, recalled racing outside during the chaos and seeing a strange blue glow suspended above the destroyed building. But the very first flash seen that night might have been something far more dangerous. Not Cherenkov light at all, but the immediate flare created when extreme heat and radiation superheat the air during a nuclear-type blast. More than 30 years later, the mystery endures. Whether that blue flash was a terrifying warning of a nuclear detonation or simply a spectral glow from ionized air, the debate continues, just like the radiation sealed beneath Reactor 4's concrete tomb. Which of these internal mysteries did you find the most compelling? Tell me in the comments. This has been The Unknown Files, where the deeper you look, the stranger it gets.